So this week, Brainstorm Comics and Gaming reviews Red Hood and the Outlaws, Dark Trinity. In this series, we have a group of successors to the Trinity of the DC Universe, that being Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. The question the series asks is, what happens when you cannot live up to the ideals of your mentor? Hello, I'm John, co-owner of Brainstorm Comics and Gaming.
Chandler.
And today we are asking, why aren't you reading Red Hood and the Outlaws, Volume 1, Dark Trinity? We can begin issue number 1 of this. Well, it's the Rebirth issue. It's not issue number 1.
Issue 0, technically.
So I guess technically we should talk about the Rebirth aspect. So for those of you who don't know, DC did an initiative called New 52 prior to Rebirth. And this was supposed to be like a clean slate beginning for all of the heroes.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of them didn't follow it. I think Green Lantern and Batman being the two that didn't really...
Right, a few of them had previous writers that were important enough that they don't have to follow what everyone's doing.
Exactly. Initially the sales on that were really great, and then as time went on, some of the older readers got kind of like tired of the new directions that the characters went in. So Jeff Johns wrote a book called DC Rebirth, wherein he didn't necessarily go back to the previous universe, but he did a bridge where writers could choose which parts of New 52 they wanted to listen to, which parts of the prior universe they wanted to listen to. So all of the comics, when they did this relaunch, they did a Rebirth issue, and this was sort of to explain what parts they were accepting from New 52 and which parts they were taking from the initial universe.
Right. Kind of not necessarily like a revamp, and which he made very clear, because as if anyone reads comics, there's nothing more frustrating than when you're reading a long series and they go, just kidding, back to the drawing board. Rebirth was more of, and in the Rebirth issue it shows, reinvigorating and a more like getting the characters back to their roots, while like you said, not necessarily throwing out what people have been reading for the last 5 years. Like it definitely, most of them stayed with that continuity if they so chose, but it was a revamp, so it was kind of it's a good starting off point for many different characters, like we see in that first issue, that it sort of tells an origin story, but without necessarily being an immediate number one, like you've never heard of the character before.
Yeah, and it's not exactly a retelling. It still lays elements for what's to follow.
Right.
But
it's not strictly an origin story. It's kind of ladled with both.
So the first issue, we begin with how Jason Todd and Batman meet, and so for those of you who don't know, they take the element of where he's stealing the wheels off of the Batmobile. It's almost like he's trying to taunt Batman, like I don't have anything to live for, I'm gonna go punch this guy in the face by taking the wheels off of his car. I don't know how you felt about like that meeting.
I think, well, I mean, it's historically how, it's always been done, so I thought that was a nice, callback to, because Jason Todd is not a new character by any means. He's been around for a while, but when he was initially a Robin, he wasn't necessarily very popular with people. Wasn't I think they did a call-in of whether they wanted him to die or not, and the fans voted him, yeah, we don't like him, get rid of him. But now him coming back as this character has sort of reinvigorated and made him popular in a new way. It's also giving him a different sort of dynamic in the fact that he was a Robin, is no longer Robin, broken, died, came back to life, and sort of it adds so many more layers to where he's just this kind of should be completely broken, desolate human being, but he chooses to. And
he's different from Dick and Tim and Damian and
everyone else in the Bat family, and Barbara,
because he doesn't look up to, well, he looks up to Batman, but not in the same manner that
he doesn't ask for permission or expect results or go up to him. He's more of it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
And he's willing to go a little bit more extreme than Batman.
Yes, he's definitely willing to go farther. He's a big fan of guns, which, as we all know, Bruce is not.
Jason, when he sees him, he has this thought of it's like a nightmare, seeing a nightmare in a cape. He's like, this guy is mythic. Even though he knew what was going to happen, he was still kind of shocked that this guy showed up, and
right,
definitely took him out of his element a little bit.
Right, especially for him at the time, being just an orphan and a kind of would-be criminal at the time of a young kid, doing a criminal act. He knows what Batman does to criminals. There's a little bit of that fear. And like I said, it seemed like he was expecting to get beat up. He taunts him. He goes, beat me up just like the GCPD. He's like, you want to beat up a kid? Yeah, he's like, go for it. I don't care. And that's kind of his whole, Jason Todd's whole shtick is, I'd go for it. I don't care.
And then Batman did the opposite of that. He was like, are you hungry?
Yeah. Because deep down, all Bruce really wants to be is a dad.
Yes.
We all know that. Batman just wants a slew of children to just father and nurture and love and teach to fight supervillains.
And Bruce tells him at this point, which is kind of like a theme and throughout the rest of this graphic novel, is sometimes you just have to give people a chance. They'll surprise you. Mm-hmm. And then he takes him into his care and like starts training him to be a Robin or whatever. It's funny to me that the person who tells him that Bruce has confidence in him isn't Bruce. It's Alfred. He's like, yeah, he trusts you, and he was like, really? And he gives him the Robin outfit, and you can tell like it's an important thing to him. But like I said, it's not Bruce telling him that.
Right. He does love his kids, but it's hard for him to admit it sometimes.
Exactly.
He doesn't like to overly show that affection. But I also like that Rebirth issue because it does a good job of going back and Red Hood Jason's narrating the piece, and it does flashbacks to when he was Robin first meeting him, but it also, like we said, it's not strictly an origin story. It has a lot of what's going on in the modern day of present, and it does a good job. I think the art with Dexter Soy of during the flashbacks, it's kind of a grayscale, so sometimes it can be confusing.
Although when he flashes the red color in there also.
Yes, sometimes it can be confusing when you're reading and it's, you know, each page is back and forth, you know, okay, when, like you have to look in the corner, like present day, where is it? This, with this color change, it really lets you know, okay, past, present day, past, present day. It's very clear.
I'm glad you mentioned Dexter. Like Dexter Soy, I think he has the potential to be like a superstar artist in the comic industry. Like his pages are greatly rendered. Like you can see the expression on their faces.
Absolutely, everything in here is beautiful.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, right now he's writing or he's drawing Batman and the Outsiders. So if you like his art in this one, definitely check out Batman and the Outsiders also. So then we see a past event where it's Two-Face. They're busting in on Two-Face's gang. Batman is distracted and Two-Face is getting ready to shoot him in the back. The person who saves him is Jason Todd. And Jason is willing to go that extra mile to make sure it never happens again.
He's a little angry at him.
Yes.
Just a little.
It's his stand-in father. Like he was fighting for a family and he has this family now, and this guy was about to kill his father figure. He's taking it very seriously.
Yes. And then getting yelled at for taking it too seriously,
yes.
Which is very confusing to a teenager.
Yes. So then we flash forward to the present, and one of the questions asked at that point was Batman always asked him, "Were you going to be on the side of good or the side of bad?" You know.
Right. You could go two ways with this. It's up to you to make that. You know, I can't make you pick a choice. You have to pick a side, and you have to walk that path. And
Red Hood or Jason at that time says, "And I didn't necessarily choose the right path." So. And then we flash forward, or we come to the present where he's attacking the mayor of Gotham.
Shows up on a motorcycle in the middle of a press conference with a gun pointed right at the mayor's face.
Yes. So Batman shows up and he's still like in awe of him. He's like amazed.
Yeah, there's a good line there where he's like, I could lie and say that it still doesn't, my heart's not still beating twice as fast and it doesn't scare the crap out of me. But, you know, that would be a lie. It still is really scary, even though I've known this guy for forever.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool that he takes out Batman at this point as well, in an interesting way, kind of showing that he is kind of his equal. And then he finishes the job or it appears that he finishes the job of
shoots the mayor point blank,
shooting the mayor
in front of all the cameras.
And at this point, we go to the flashback of when Jason was killed by the Joker. The part that hit me the most in that one is when he goes, "Bruce, I'm sorry." Like he feels like he let Bruce down. He's the one getting ready to get killed.
Getting murdered, and he feels I should have been able to stop him. Like, I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's always one of the very hard-hitting scenes, but also the good. And a lot of things about Red Hood and throughout the series, like you'll see, could be very, very strictly depressing. But because of who Jason is and his narration on top of it, he's able to find humor and lightheartedness in a lot of the situations. I mean, even where he comments, like he doesn't pretend like it was an enjoyable time, but he's like, yeah. You know, a little fuzzy there. Don't remember all of it, probably because I was being murdered, and you know, adds that little element that you kind of need. Where else it's just a really sinking depression of a moment there.
Exactly, and he has this flashback when he's in a bar, and the guy sort of tells him like, "Oh, you took on the Red Hood thing. You know that was Joker's thing, right?"
You should be careful about that. I heard the Joker did that originally, and then he's warning him about the Joker, and he's like, "Oh, you don't say." Like, I know more than you do.
Exactly. And at the bar, a guy approaches him, and there's a new bad guy in town, Black Mask, who's been accruing power and accruing wealth and kind of taking things over. And we find out here that sort of the mayor was a part of that plan that Black Mask had. So
right.
Batman shows up when he goes back to his private lair.
That no one knows about, but Batman knows everything.
And at the private lair, Batman says, "Oh, you know, the mayor is actually getting better. You know, you injected him with this thing, the cure to this." Jason asked the question, like, "Why didn't you just trust me?"
Yeah, like, I know what I did. Like, why are you telling me? Yeah, like, why didn't you just trust me? Why you really thought I was just going to kill him for no reason? Like, who do you think I am?
Yeah. It seems like each one of them, despite having so much time together, don't really know each other as fully as they probably should.
Right. Because I think a good portion of their relation, which in a lot of the different books, a lot of the Robins, the later afterwards, talk about a good deal of their relationship was strictly Batman and Robin. And while there's familiarity with that in terms of like a outside of the costume thing because of who Bruce is and his own damage and trauma, he's not always the most open book, warm and fuzzy, emotional.
Even with the Justice League, I mean, it's just Bruce's character at this point.
He puts up the front, and
The
that's
walls,
kind of all you get is
yeah.
Batman. I think he said at one point, it's like talking to a brick wall with pointy ears. And
Jason sort of loosely explains what his plan is. He doesn't really go in depth into what it is, but
maybe because he doesn't have a fully fledged plan, because that wouldn't really be Jason. He's got an idea and he runs with it.
So he loosely explains it to Bruce, though, and Bruce is like, fine, you can operate in my city, but no killing. Like, if you go too far, I'll be there and you'll regret it. But then it ends on a more of a, I would say, cheerful note. Like, Alfred takes a picture of the two of them when they were, like, young. This is a flashback. When they were younger, he was taking a picture of the two of them when he was training to be Robin. Bruce explains the trophies, that they aren't really trophies. They're more like reminders of where he's been, what they've done.
And why he does what he does.
At the last panel, we see Jason kept this picture as sort of like his touchstone. Like, the one, like, this is why I do what I do. This is,
that picture of him and Bruce, which he'll never let Bruce see that he still has, but
yes.
Deep down he does have a heart and he does care.
Yes. And that was the ending to the Rebirth issue, which I thought was a good self-contained thing. If you read that just by itself, you would get a...
Yeah, you get the whole sense of who Red Hood is and everything he's been through and where he is going forward.
Exactly. So then we go into issue 1, because like I said, the first one was really just the Rebirth issue, sort of an explanation origin issue. And issue 1 starts with the Moggun's orphanage. And it's kind of weird in that he feels kind of a connection to that one too. Like, it seems like he likes her also, despite her
being a terrible person.
Yes.
Yeah, which, because, I mean, Jason Todd ran with a lot of terrible people back in the day and kind of still does from time to time.
But he seems to like have a almost rose-colored glasses sort of thing with like, oh, you tried to kill me, but
Right, but were you really gonna? Probably not. I don't know. And yeah, and again, with the whole flashback and flash forward of, back when him and when Batman shows up and stops this woman who's running a orphanage
terrorist
where
orphanage.
she's training like young children to be criminals, but they stop her and then flash forward, it has her and runs out as the building explodes and saves her from present day.
And it turned out like she had just gotten out of prison. And it sounded like she was going to start it again.
Just as she said, it was going to start it right back up. I mean, looks like 90 years old. She doesn't care.
But Red Hood, like, Jason didn't seem to really have a problem with that.
He's fine with that.
It was odd.
She did her time. It's okay.
And we find out that it was attacked by Black Mask because he had approached her after she had gotten out of prison. He wanted her to be a part of his organization. I guess raising his henchmen was the goal from what I gathered.
Right.
She had turned down the offer, and then she reveals something to Jason that kind of irks him more than the fact that she was going to raise these criminals, which was Black Mask didn't know that there weren't going to be children there, so...
Yeah, it got delayed a week, but he didn't know that, so he wasn't planning on firing a warning shot. He was just going to kill her and all the kids in the building, which shows kind of who he is. But I think this story arc also does a good bit of Black Mask, where he's been around for a while, but he's kind of always just been like, oh, well, he's like a mob guy, but he's got like a costume gimmick, but he's not really. He's more strictly mob, and he's kind of a lower level. He doesn't really have a whole lot of power. But in this one, it's really trying to raise him up to a higher level and put
to the level of a Joker,
right, and to put him on a big level. And I think it does a good job. And he's actually, like we see here, he's trying to kind of corner the market and take over. It's sort of kind of how Penguin is now and wants to be in charge of all the crime in Gotham. He's trying to do that as well. And from what we see, his empire is pretty vast.
Yeah, skipping ahead a little bit to the future and the issues. He has a giant warehouse of like items, and Jason is there like, what is all this stuff? He goes, more power. Like,
yeah.
Like you said, he's definitely building this empire to rival everybody else's. So we have another flashback, and like apparently they know where Riddler is in a flashback, and Jason's like, let's rush in, and Batman's like, no. How are we going to catch him? Because there's this false wall, he's going to be out of it. And they're like, oh, what am I thinking?
Yeah, type of thing. And again, from Batcave to his cave now, and just kind of shows, as much as, again, where he's never going to maybe admit this to Bruce, he's looking back at, I have learned a lot from this guy. So he's like, how do I get this guy? I can't just rush in and bum rush him like I want to. Like you said, straight up, like I want to kill this guy, but I can't because I promised Bruce. But I also can't just rush in because I'm sure he's got a way out. So how do I find my way in?
Well, he also made the statement, like, no one ever accused me of being the smartest Robin.
Right.
You feel kind of bad. Like, he has this obvious inferiority complex
He
compared to, like,
does, 'cause he feels like everybody, you know, Dick's done the whole thing where he's transitioned to a superhero, Nightwing, and been really, really good. Tim's always the best Robin. Damien's his actual biological son, and then there's just Jason.
Yeah.
He always feels like the redheaded stepchild, no pun intended. But he's always looking at it like that, even though none of them say that, and they all tell him that they care about him. He's always got that chip on his shoulder, like, you know, I know I'm the worst one. Like, I know I'm the failure. I'm the one that, you know, couldn't cut it. I'm the one that nobody likes. I get it. I'm fine. But is he fine?
Yeah.
Exactly. That is Red Hood in a nutshell.
Red Hood comes up with his plan. Maybe not the best plan. He decides to attack Black Mask crew in order to sort of be invited into the lion's den, so to speak, to impress Black Mask. He's like, I understand you want to recruit me. Very weirdly, Black Mask is like, yeah, I want you to be my number 2.
Yeah, right away. He's like, wants me to say, and even Jason's like, oh, didn't see that coming. Thought I was gonna have to work my way up here a little bit. But Black Mask seems like he's definitely got some overarching plan, and apparently he wants Red Hood to be a large part of it. Apparently he's a big fan of his.
Yes, I mean, he was sort of impressed by what he appeared to happen with the mayor.
Shooting the mayor point blank on cameras and not giving a crap.
And then we also find out at this point that Black Mask has no family. Kind of different from Bruce Wayne. He killed his own parents, though. Apparently they disappointed him.
Yes. And as he said, you've seen what I do with disappointments.
Exactly. Which again probably does touch him with Jason Todd's character of feeling like he's always been a disappointment. But also that Black Mask does what Red Hood always thought Batman should do in terms of, like, not just putting up with problems or pushing them away.
Finishing them.
Yeah.
Fixing it.
Yeah.
Instead of just putting a Band-Aid on it, as he says a lot of times.
One of the first things is like to prove that he's loyal to Black Mask, he asked him to kill his henchman that failed him. Obviously he's operating under the role that he promised Bruce.
Right. I mean, even he says in his narration, like, these guys, like, they accidentally didn't kill an old lady. Like, why? Like, even for me, like, why would you kill, you know? And he even says, like, you know, a dead henchman can't help you. Like, it's no good if you just kill him. And, you know, and so again, it's like, oh crap. And he even says, like, is this gonna is he gonna ruin everything? But again, it's a big surprise. Black Mask is like, oh, I like a guy with his own moral compass. But thanks, but no thanks. They gotta get a message. And like,
well, he tells him, like, yeah, I understand your reasoning. You know, I need henchmen. You're right.
Yeah, he's like, I respect that. Yeah, and he just kills him anyway. And he, you know, it's, again, every time he's saying something or he's like, oh, this isn't gonna work. How's this gonna happen? And Black Mask is just like, yeah, that's fine. Still be my number 2. Like, okay, like, and you're kind of like, what's going on here?
Yeah, you definitely get the hint that there's something else going on. So the first issue finishes with the attack on the train. He's told that there's this big weapon in there. And when Red Hood goes to attack it, he finds that not only is there a weapon, but
somebody else wants it as well.
Yeah, and well, there's also somebody very dangerous inside, and that is Artemis. And for those of you who are not familiar with Artemis, I don't know how much of this is still canon because of how much they've changed between all the different universes or continuities and stuff. But originally, she was a part of a storyline where Wonder Woman was supposed to die. Wonder Woman's mom found out, like, saw this vision of the future. So Diana was no longer Wonder Woman, and they got Artemis to be the replacement Wonder Woman. And then she was the one that ended up dying because she was Wonder Woman at that time. Mm-hmm. Again, she has connections to one of the Trinity, which is why this graphic novel is called The Dark Trinity. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of surprised that she's in the...
Right. I mean, he said you can clearly tell she's an Amazon, and regardless of exactly what's clear about canon or not, she's definitely has Themyscirian roots, but is sort of, like, he even comments, because you see Amazon, you immediately think Wonder Woman. She makes a very clear point of, no, like, do not call me that. Like, not a big Wonder Woman fan, not a big fan of where they come from, but still very much, as you hear in her language and speak, very much still a part of that culture and product of her upbringing, but very much something has gone on, which they allude to a bit in some flashbacks, that she has been dissuaded from it, and, like, I don't like them anymore.
So issue 2 is what really starts laying the groundwork for that. So we get a flashback of where she wants the bow of Ra, And she talks about how she's Greek and has a lot of Greek origins. However, she's more enamored with Egyptian gods and
goddesses,
and such. Again, she's told that she's not worthy of like the bow of Ra. They're like, oh no, you don't choose the weapon. The weapon chooses you.
Right.
She kind of gets angry about that. She's like, well, this is the one I want. Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, this is the only option for me. What do you mean I don't get it? And they're like, maybe someday, but not right now.
So again, she feels like she's kind of like I won't say disappointment, but definitely like less than.
Well, was told that she wasn't worthy enough, at least at the time.
Exactly.
For something she feels like is her right, something she feels she needs to have. So she also has a chip on her shoulder walking around the world.
So going back to your thing about her problems with Wonder Woman, Jason Todd pulls 2 guns on her and like, oh, I don't see any bracelets on you. And her line was, who needs bracelets? Like, again, kind of like mocking the
very much
Wonder Woman. Like, I don't need that.
Yeah, not a fan. No, don't compare me to her.
And Jason even calls her princess, which really sets her off.
Yeah,
like,
she gives him one tap to the face and breaks his mask in half.
Clearly, she's not a fan of Wonder Woman. So they're building this group of like misfits, and it feels really cool. It feels really cool to me. I don't know how you felt about it. But
I think it's definitely a good. It doesn't feel, at least, and how it's gone progression, it doesn't feel forced. It's not that one where like, oh, 3 people are in a room and like got to get out of this one situation to team up. It's a natural progression of storyline of people meeting each other and seeing similarities but also sharing a common threat and a common interest in this Black Mask character that they're
even kind of having a similar background in terms of like
maybe having, more so than
idols,
they like to admit.
Yeah, having these idols that they can't live up to.
Right.
And that's kind of the question of this whole series is, if you have this mentor and you can't live up to it, what kind of effects would it have on you, like psychologically? And don't get me wrong, it's definitely an action story also.
Absolutely.
There's definitely there are layers in the.
Oh, for sure. They definitely have trouble meeting their, at least in their, which again, I think all of their mentors and the people would say that it's not the case, but they feel like they are not as good and they'll never be as good, and that like haunts them and holds on to them. But especially this issue definitely has a lot of great action, both between Artemis and him fighting, but also a lot of great just witty dialogue and wordplay between both of them, where she's, because she's an Amazon, she's not scared of anyone, especially any man that is, got, like she even says, like, you have guns, like, of course you do, like, that's weak, I'm not scared of those. And of course Jason being Jason says,
she has a cool axe.
Yeah, well, I'm not scared of you either. Yeah, it's a bit of a Thor-esque axe of coming to her when she calls and everything. I thought that was cool.
She definitely is a different take on the Wonder Woman, sort of.
Yes.
Kind of like that, or Red Hood is a different take on like the Batman.
Absolutely.
So he takes out Artemis, and Black Mask goes, "You are the perfect heir to my throne." And again, he's laying it on thick with Jason. Like, I know Bruce pushed you away. Well, he doesn't necessarily know Bruce pushed him away, but he's like, I'm here for you. You're
right.
I'm the family for you.
I think you're gonna be a great, type of person. I think you should be perfect for my organization. Like, come on in, open arms. Which again, it's maybe been less than 12 hours since their initial introduction, so he's kind of like, this is weird, but I'm rolling with it. Like, it seems to be working. Like, my plan's going great.
Yes. And then Artemis gets back up. She realizes that Jason isn't necessarily going at her full strength.
Right. Which, as she says, she's like, I'm an Amazon. I know when people are pulling their punches. What's going on here?
So they end up behind like a couple rocks or whatever, and she like asks him like, what's going on here? Clearly you're not one of the bad guys. You can drop this act. And he finally reveals to her, like, hey, I'm trying to bring this guy down. I just need to take this weapon to him. And she's like, no!
Terrible idea. Don't do that.
And Jason being Jason obviously listens to her. No.
And then, but Black Mask being Black Mask doesn't wait and just literally picks up the train car with a helicopter and takes it.
So they come out from behind the rock and the helicopter is pulling off with it. Part of you questions, like, so Black Mask is just going to leave him there behind?
Right. Loves him so much, second in command, but
Artemis throws him up to the train. She sort of jumps up to the train, and then they find out what actually is in the car. It is not the bow of Ra after all. It is something probably much worse than that.
So.
And that is a clone of Superman. He is not in the Bizarro mode at this point.
He's still in stasis, just as a strict clone. Looks very much like, which he even makes the mark, is that him? And he's like, I don't think so. He's like, but it might be just as bad.
Yes. The criminal mastermind wants a Superman henchman as his right-hand man. So, which leads us into issue number 3. If you were a criminal mastermind, which hero would you want on your side? Obviously, Superman would be
It's a pretty tough enforcer.
number one on your list. He takes out Artemis and Red Hood, just knocks him out with some gas. And then Jason wakes up in the mansion, and he's kind of freaked out because he's like, these aren't the clothes I was wearing last night.
Right, and you got replacements of everything, and he's like, do you know where my stuff is, or did you make like replicas? Like, how did you get all this stuff? And
Here we also get another scene of Jason not listening necessarily to his instincts because he's like, it always seems like Black Mask is five steps ahead of me. And then...
But let's just keep going with it, yeah. And then they have they kind of have a little bit of a conversation there, and more character development of where not only is Black Mask just like, I like you a lot, he's definitely putting on the we're kind of the same person, and I see myself in you, and which Jason is kind of like, I don't like that, but I'm having trouble poking holes in that right now, and that kind of doesn't sit well with him either, that he's like, I do not want to be this guy because this guy's a psychopath, but maybe I am a bit of a psychopath.
We also find out, like, you were talking about how they were trying to elevate Black Mask. We find out that Luthor had ordered this clone be destroyed, and Black Mask ends up with it. So it kind of puts Black Mask on that sort of same level as Luthor, like, hey, he has people out there doing his dirty work, he hears things, that sort of thing. So when the clone is awakened, Jason sort of has flashbacks to his own reawakening,
right,
when he was being reborn in the Lazarus pit. He can't shake it. It's sort of like he's talking about how he couldn't breathe and all these other things, and how we see how Bizarro can't breathe as he's sort of doing this transformation. Artemis is making fun of Jason at the same time here, like, what are you doing? Like,
right,
can we just end this guy already? Like,
yeah, why are you sitting around waiting for this?
Yes. Superman's clone is not the perfect weapon that he thought that he was going to be. Like I said, he becomes Bizarro, so he has like a child's intellect, saying things like pup in a way instead of like up in a way.
Yeah.
And I thought a cool moment for Jason here was he went to go buy him a toy. He buys him like a stuffed Superman toy. So he talks about how he sucks at the family stuff and how he even skipped Tim's funeral, which you're like, oh, that's...
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to be part of the Bat family. Or...
Right. I mean, to be fair, nobody stays dead in the Bat family.
True.
But
True.
Jason being a prime example of that. But yes, it does say that, it's laying it on thick that, as much as he might want to be, just from his whole life and childhood, that he's not good at family stuff, and he's got a lot of reason to not be good at it. But
so one of my favorite lines was from Artemis in this one. Well, she has so many great lines. Period. Their interplay is just so great.
Yes.
Like, but my favorite line was, how have you lived this long without being able to identify a threat? And you're like, he hasn't. He died.
Yeah. He hasn't lived that long.
But it's interesting that he's been with Batman for so long and he still has these issues of being able to identify things. But when he's teaching Bizarro, because he has a special connection with Bizarro that obviously Black Mask doesn't have.
Right.
He tells Bizarro, you don't want to spend your life being someone else. Which again brings the whole point of the whole series together.
Right.
All these guys are trying to be their own person after living in the shadows of the Trinity. Which leads us into issue 4. So Bizarro is very much like a child. He's being attacked at the beginning of this one. He's being attacked not because Bizarro is bad or anything, but because Bizarro realizes he's not Superman and doesn't want to not be Superman. As a matter of fact, they keep calling each other, "You're not Batman. You're not Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
You're not Superman." Which I thought was a cool little thing. Also, poking at each other, like, "Oh, you act like you're so and so, but you're not."
Right. Just close enough, but you can't cut it.
Yes. So then they have a breakfast, Black Mask and Red Hood, and Black Mask again plays on him, like, hey, we're kindred, you lost your parents, I killed mine, same thing.
Yeah, we're both orphans, and it's a lot of character development in his, it's really making you, setting Black Mask up, he's not just this, one-off villain, he's very much, a serious player, and he's, again, laying it on the whole, we're kind of, the same person, and where Red Hood's kind of seeing it as, two sides of the same coin of, we are similar, but hopefully I don't have to end up like that. I can be on the good side, and he can stay on that, that really dark, bad side that I don't want to be on, but definitely a good character development scene for both characters.
And Black Mask is saying he's doing it for the betterment of Gotham. He's like, I'm gonna get rid of Joker. I'm gonna get rid of Riddler. I'm gonna do what Batman wouldn't do. I'm I don't. At this point, I'm gonna spoil a little bit. Like I don't know whether that was to keep luring Jason in or whether he meant it. It seemed like he meant it. It didn't seem like the other parts where he was kind of
Right.
like.
Whether it's accurate or not, it seems like he believes it. Whether it's crazy or
Yeah.
not, or whether it would work or not, he seems to believe that, I'm just going to purge the city of all of these, which he deems as like costume freaks and like psychopaths, and then, but Jason Todd makes the comment of like, and what, you're just gonna be like all chummy and good to the city after, like, you're still a bad guy. Like, then it's just, there's only one bad guy, but there's still a bad guy running the city, and he's like, details.
Well, he asks him like, and what are you gonna do when somebody disappoints you? We don't want to talk about that.
Right? Yeah, we'll take care of it.
So we also see Black Mass Trophy Room. Now this is drastically different than Batman's Trophy Room, and that each one of these is not a memory. It's like how I'm gonna exert my power further within Gotham
Right.
City. And again, where he talks about how he's gonna get rid of all the rogues gallery of Batman, and he also reveals that he knows that Jason is not really on his side. He goes, "I know that you cured the mayor. I know that you did this. I know you did that."
He was, in fact, 5 steps ahead the whole time, which Jason thought, but still went ahead with anyway, and it turns out he was right.
Yes, and now he has Bizarro to help him
Yes.
rule the world. So then we go to issue 5, and this is where action really starts picking up.
Yeah, it's definitely a very action-packed issue.
Black Mask thinks he's doing good. I mean, definitely for not altruistic reasons,
Right.
but Jason has an opportunity to kill Black Mask at this point, and he doesn't take it again because he has the chains of his promise to Bruce on him.
Mm-hmm.
Bizarro attacks Red Hood, and Artemis comes in to save the day, at least to keep it a little bit more even.
Right.
Black Mask makes the comment to Jason, he's an errant child looking for his father's love, which again sort of epitomizes the whole series for all three of the characters, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, this was mostly just a giant action
Right, there's
issue.
a lot of really cool fight scenes, both between Artemis and Bizarro, and between Red Hood and Black Masks.
Some great lines in this one also. Was there anything particular you wanted to talk about in issue 5?
Just some more development of Black Mask's character, both because him, obviously, Artemis and Bizarro's fight is very much hand-to-hand combat and very physical and violent. Black Mask and Red Hood is more of that cat and mouse chase of shooting at each other, but it's a lot of conversation happening because they're not just straight up in a fist fight.
Yeah.
They're more of like I'm gonna hunt you down, I'm gonna chase you, so there's a lot of taunting and
Black Mask, he's telling him, like, you think you're leading me? I know what you're doing.
right. He's very much like, I have you wrapped around my finger, like I'm in your head, like you don't know what you're doing, I'm in charge here, you're nothing.
So there's this mind control thing that he has with Bizarro. The Black Mask does. So he's controlling Bizarro at this point. Bizarro's not attacking him out of his own free will.
Right.
It's the same thing that he had used on the mayor that Jason had cured him of. The fight kind of comes to an end. Black Mask is suffering from the virus, like, eating away at him. And he, like, begs Red Hood to use the cure on him. And Red Hood does not oblige.
No.
He's like, you made your choice. You live with it. He destroys the last thing of the cure, it sounds like.
Right. Sort of a Batman in the first Christian Bale
Batman
movie
Begins.
where he's like, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you.
Yes. He definitely he goes, look, I made a promise I wouldn't kill you.
Yeah.
I'm not killing
I'm
you.
not, and so he says, I want you to be very clear that everything that's happening to you now is 100% your fault.
And then the three of them agree to team up, Artemis, Bizarro, and Red Hood, to go find the Bow of Ra. Artemis does not seem all that keen on it at first, but comes around. So then we come to the end where, like, Batman and Red Hood are meeting up.
Sort of a debriefing on what happened.
Exactly. Jason says that Batman's always been the law and order guy, and Batman's like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
You think I'm law and order? I break into people's houses. I punch them in the face.
Right. I'm very much not a part of the law. Like, I'm a different side of it. And sort of, again, that more of where Jason's like, I know you hate me. I know I'm a disappointment. And he's like, no, like, you're one of my kids. Like, I love you. Like, you do things differently, and I don't always agree with it, but I respect you, and I know that you're good at what you do.
The interesting thing to me, though, was even when he was trying to compliment Jason, he was like, I expect you to mess up. I expect you to do it. Like, and Jason's like, this is supposed to be my pep talk?
Right.
Like,
Thanks, Dad.
and it comes full circle, which is what they mentioned in the Rebirth issue also, because Jason looks at Bats and he goes, I only have one question for you. Are you hungry? And they share a meal. And then we come to see where Black Mask is. I won't ruin that part because I thought it was a pretty cool ending to the nice bow on that first story arc.
Yeah, definitely leaves room for potentially more in the future,
Yes.
which would be a shame because he was in this whole story, a pretty good looking villain, a pretty good threat, and a very good, especially for Red Hood, like definitely a sort of a Batman Joker type situation, but a Red Hood Black Mask type situation, where the villain sees a lot of himself and projects there, much to the hero's dismay of like, no, I'm nothing like you, and it's like, yeah, you're a bit more like me than you'd like to admit.
So I did have one question for you. When I told you we were going to review Red Hood and the Outlaws, you were kind of like, ugh. Like, do you still feel that way after?
I definitely don't feel that way after, and more of the ugh is just because I'm a big DC guy, and Red Hood to me it's not a series that I have been reading because I know a lot of Red Hood, and he's for a while he would just show up in Batman and Detective Comics and other stuff. He didn't really have his own series until New 52. But I was like, I know that story, you know, like he's cool and everything. Everybody loves, you know, Red Hood. He's awesome. But I've heard that, I've seen that one. I don't really need to read it. And then I was pleasantly surprised by it. Definitely, he was how I thought he was, but he was the absolute zenith of what I thought he was. And the guy, Scott Lordell, writes him really good. He wrote him before in New 52. This series is still ongoing. He's continuing to write him. He does a very good job of writing Jason. But the other two characters, which it's not the same lineup as he had before, but it goes to show that Red Hood definitely sees himself as very much of an outsider, and I don't play well with others. Yeah. But he actually, in reality, he is a good teammate, and he does have potential to be a good leader when he wants to, certainly with people he identifies with who are kind of outsiders and outcasts and people that don't necessarily fit in and wouldn't be, you know, at Justice League meetings and stuff, but are really good at what they do, and they're able to come together. So Artemis was great, very well written. Bizarro's always funny, always a really good character to have, and I think it has a lot of potential.
Yeah, Scott Lordell's been a writer in comic books for like 30 some years at this, close to 30 years, if not a little bit longer. And I think this is the character he was always meant to write. Like,
it definitely seems that way, yeah.
So, well, next week we will be reviewing Die, and we thank you guys for watching. Why aren't you reading Red Hood and the Outlaws?